All right, so I'm going to talk about the process of photosynthesis, and this is a chemical process. So what happens is we got carbon dioxide, this CO2 over here. We get some water, this H2O, along with some sunlight, and what you end up with on the other side is a sugar, which is this C6H12O6, and then oxygen that's emitted to the atmosphere. So that's what the whole process of a plant growing looks like. Another word for it is how a plant sequesters carbon. Because when that plant takes this carbon here that's in this sugar and creates a sugar from this CO2 over here, that's sequestration. It removed carbon from the atmosphere and turned it into biomass. Now, this equation is really important. Any of you who have had chemistry will know that there's something called a limiting factor. The limiting factor is something that if you have a chemical reaction, what do you run out of first, by and large? In most places of the world, sunlight is not your limiting factor. That does not decrease the amount of plant that you can grow in this case. What is a limiting factor in most of the world, and this is the arid, semi-arid world, is that water, this H2O here. And what happens is when it becomes a limiting factor, that's what we call a drought. Those plants quit growing. So that water runs out and it can no longer pull CO2 from the atmosphere to combine with and to make these sugars. So if it's not making sugars, that plant is done growing. So that's important. Something to keep in mind. There's a number of ways you can address this problem. The problem of water being limiting. The soil health movement is a lot of that has to do with water. And it's all about keeping water on the land. North Dakota grazing lands, what we do with, say, range health, one of the ways we improve the range is by increasing its water holding capacity. If you can increase the amount of water an acre of land can hold, that means you can grow more plants. And they're more resilient because of it, because they can grow for longer, because they run out of water later. So keep it in mind. This has everything to do with sequestration, especially biological sequestration, which is the only really good way we have of sequestering carbon out of the atmosphere.